We have all done this. We have all spent money on a coffee shop because we were too lazy to make coffee at home. We have all spent money on delivery while our vegetables rotted in the fridge. Or we have all purchased the new iPhone 15 even though the iPhone 13 was still working well. So if you want the tools to help you control these expenses that you make and create some space within your budget so you can start saving every month, you are in the right place, because in this video I'm going to share with you nine different strategies that you can actually implement immediately. This is not just theory. I'm going to give you tools that you can start to implement right away and see results immediately. So basically, we're going to group these 9 strategies in 3 different groups, starting with group 1, which is the strategies that help you control your environment. Just as when you want to stop eating sugar, you get rid of the sugar that is inside of your kitchen, if you want to spend less money, you have to start by controlling your environment. And the first strategy to do this is to stop carrying your credit cards and debit cards, and uninstall Apple Pay and uninstall Google Pay, Google Wallet, or whatever it is called these days. Because it means that next time that you want to buy something unexpected while you're out and about, you won't be able to do it because you only have the cash that you previously contemplated, planned for, spending money that day. The strategy number 2 is to stop watching reviews online. This is something that happens to me all the time. Like, I want this camera and I start looking at reviews online on YouTube, especially video after video of people talking about how amazing this camera is. Of course, I'm gonna want to buy that camera even more than before. So if you can't help it, try and avoid these reviews, at least until you are entirely sure that you're gonna buy something. And of course, you want to make sure that you're buying the best. But if it's just to feed your need and to rationalize in your head how amazing this thing is and how much you need it, stop. It's not worth it. The third strategy is to try and avoid ads online. And there are a ton of strategies that you can follow. Of course, one of them is to simply install an ad blocker on your computer, on your browser. Another one is to uninstall Amazon and Instagram and YouTube on your phone so you are not bombarded with ads from all over the place. But those, at least the uninstalling applications from your phone part of the strategy, is quite unrealistic. I've tried it myself in the past, and to be honest, just 3 or 5 days later, I reinstalled the application. That's it. The process is painless. It's just so quick. So a better strategy that I found works is to set your phone's screen to be black and white. This is a configuration deep inside accessibility settings or something, but it's really helpful because now your brain is like, this is boring. This is just without color. I want color, so you don't want to use your phone as much. And reducing screen time is really going to help with this strategy, even though it seems to be completely unrelated. Because now you're going to be on Instagram and on X and on YouTube less, so that is less ads, which reduces your chances of encountering something that you just must have. The fourth strategy is to just please stop comparing yourselves to others, which is of course easier said than done. Because when your neighbor parks their new car right in front of your face, when your cousin starts uploading photos from his new trip to Thailand on Instagram, and when your co-workers get to work with their brand new beautiful Stanley Cup, you want those things as well. It's human nature. But to try and stop this envy from making you purchase things that you do not need and definitely cannot afford, try to think about how those purchases, the car and the trip and the Stanley Cup, are their priorities, not yours. So try to rationalize, even if it's not entirely true, how they must have those priorities for their money, but you have your priorities elsewhere. Perhaps your priority is to save for your retirement, or to start investing, or to buy a new home, things like that. You have those priorities, so that means that you cannot spend in the same way. Because your neighbor and your cousin and your coworkers have different objectives with their money to yours, there's no reason for you to spend in the same way. And surprisingly, this works. I think you're just brainwashing yourself. Like, oh I could do it if I wanted to, but I don't want to because my priorities lay elsewhere. But it works, even if it's just brainwashing yourself. Now, the second category for 3 additional strategies is to just wait. And you've heard of this before, but I'm talking about 3 different strategies. I think you're gonna find at least one of them very interesting. The others I think you can see coming, but stick around, please. The first one is to serve the urge. This is a term that I found on Dr. Faye Beghetti's book, The Phone Fix, which says that contrary to what we may think, the urge to do something doesn't just grow exponentially and continuously, but it actually peaks at some point and then starts going down until it dissipates just like a wave would do. So what do you do with waves? You surf them. This surfing the urge technique was actually first created for smokers to try and make them surf the urge to smoke. But of course we can start applying them within our financial lives. Next time that we feel the urge to buy something, what Dr. Faye Beghetti says we can do, in another entirely different context, but what she says we should do to implement this in our lives is to be very aware of what we are feeling, to just be aware of the urge, but do not act on it. Simply let it pass, knowing that it will pass in just a few minutes. And literally, I just tried it like a couple of weeks ago. I felt the urge to buy a new iPod from 2005, just because. And I remember this and I was like, I'm gonna try that. And indeed, I felt the urge growing and growing, and I was like watching reviews online, looking at how beautiful iPods are with their scroll wheel and things. And eventually just the urge dissipated. And I'm not gonna lie to you, once in a while, because that's how YouTube works, I see more iPod reviews for 2024, things like that, and I feel the urge again, but that urge is no longer as violent. So the waves are easier to surf now. Now, the second strategy in this category is the 3-day rule. And this is what I was talking about, something about you may have heard of before. This, as its name suggests, just says to wait 3 days before you actually purchase something, that the next time you feel the urge to buy something, you just tell yourself that you are gonna buy it just 3 days from now. And by the way, 3 is just a number. You can change it to 5 and 7 or something, a small number. But the main idea behind this and why this works is because you are creating an excuse for yourself. Again, like just brainwashing yourself, but you're creating an excuse to why not right now, later. Like maybe you left your credit card at home. You know, you were controlling your environment, so your credit cards are at home. I'll come back in 3 days to buy this. Or maybe, I get my paycheck in 5 days, so I will buy it then. Or, I'm in such a hurry right now, I have to get back home, but I will definitely be here next weekend. Things like this, kind of brainwashing ourselves just to try and avoid cognitive dissonance. Another fancy term that I'm throwing in here, but it just simply means that we in our brains have opposing points of views. We want to buy something, but we want to save money, so this creates cognitive dissonance inside of our brains. What do? We avoid it by brainwashing ourselves by telling us, don't worry, I will buy it later. Because if we tell ourselves, no, I won't buy it, I want to save money, that is creating that cognitive dissonance, which our brains are gonna try and solve by making us buy the thing, so we can finally get rid of that so uncomfortable dissonance. But we are not creating dissonance because we're simply saying, yes, we will buy this just later. And we will simply forget. Now, this works for small purchases, those that we just felt the sudden urge to buy, like the coffee or a new pair of pants or something small. Things that we will definitely probably forget a little bit later. But what about bigger purchases? We need the 30-day rule for that. Purchases that are not sudden, that we have actually been thinking about for quite some time. Like buying a car. You don't suddenly buy a car, you've probably been thinking about buying a car for a few weeks, a few months, and you've suddenly missed your train and got late to work, so if only I had a car, so you want a car. Or because you see your neighbors with their new car and you say, okay, I should be able to buy the new car, we must be making the same amount of money every month because we live in the same neighborhood and so on so you want this new car and you've been thinking about it, but if you know you should not do it, use the 30-day rule. And similar to the 3-day rule, you can switch 30-day for 60 or 90, The point here again is to brainwash yourself into why you're not gonna do it right now, but in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. It's because, oh, I get my bonus in 3 months, I'm gonna buy my car then. Or it's because I have to save a little bit of money first so I don't have to get a bigger loan. Or it's because I'm gonna pay my credit card off first and I will buy the car in 4 months or 2 months or something. A lot of the times, this month or 2 or 3 months are gonna be enough for you to calm yourself down again and forget about that time that you lost the train. And because you've seen the neighbor's car every day for 3 months, it's no longer new. It's like, meh, it's okay. He has a car, I don't. Doesn't matter. You've tried to avoid that and you didn't create cognitive dissonance in the process. Now, unfortunately, and here is where the last category lays for 2 additional strategies, unfortunately, you cannot control your environment entirely. There are things that are just outside of your control. And sometimes the wave is just too hard and you fall and you cannot surf it and you just want to buy it. And sometimes 3 days or 30 days later, you still want the damn thing. What do you do? Well, number 1, the 8th strategy, the first in this category, you could try and minimize the impact of that purchase. If the purchase was an iPhone, you can go ahead and try and minimize that by not buying the new iPhone, but the iPhone from last year or 2 years ago, which is still going to be a pretty goddamn phone, but it's probably going to be cheaper. What's more, many times that is already going to be the phone that you have, or maybe it's not going to have the feature that you wanted, so maybe, just maybe, you notice that I don't need the iPhone from 2 years ago, I'll wait for the new one next year. Things like that. And if you do end up caving and buy the iPhone from 2 years ago, you at least didn't spend as much money as otherwise. Now, the second strategy, kind of like this last resort in this last category, is to only buy those things that you can purchase twice. And I'm not saying go ahead and purchase 2 of everything. I'm saying you buy and you save the same amount of money in your savings account, your investment account, your retirement account, whatever. This means that if you wanted a new iPhone and you couldn't control your environment enough, you carried your credit card, or you couldn't serve the urge, or you couldn't wait 30 days, you should at least make sure that you only buy the iPhone that you could purchase twice. Maybe that is an $800 iPhone from last year instead of a $1,500 phone from this year. But you would pay $800 and save $800. And that, at the end of the day, is minimizing the impact, because who cares that you just bought a new phone that you didn't really need if you at the same time saved some money in the process. So there you have it, 9 different strategies that hopefully you can start implementing today. Don't be too hard on yourself. If even all of them combined don't work out 100% of the time, it is good enough if they work 50% of the time, 60% of the time, maybe 90% of the time. That, at the end of the day, could leave you in a much better financial position than if you hadn't implemented them in the first place. Hopefully this video has been useful, and I hopefully will catch you in the next one.